I wanted to talk about this little series right here, Apple Cider Vinegar. I saw a trailer for this, and I'm glad my opinion is being validated. It has pretty good reviews. I don't see people talking about this. This was actually pretty good. So I saw a trailer for this a few weeks or months ago, and I was like, that sounds like a pretty interesting true crime, like background noise type of deal. I'm just gonna put on in the background and not really worry about it that much. But I started, it has like 6 episodes or something. I think it had 6 or 8 episodes. Pretty sure it was 6. But I put it on. It kind of goes hard. I didn't know that this was a series that is actually based on a true story. I've got no idea how much of this is actually true and how much of it is based in the real world. But it is based on a true story. I even looked it up. What was her name? So this is a real person who actually scammed people, right? It's an actual thing. So I watched this. It is a bit heavy at times, but I would recommend checking it out. I took literally like 3 notes to this. Hold on. Yeah, so I thought I just put it on in the background, but the way it's actually told is actually really engaging. It's not even about the story itself, it's about the way it's told. There are like 3 different timelines being interwoven, and it's like going in 3 different directions. Is really interesting. Because there's like an origin story, there's the present day, and then in between there are like flashbacks, flash forwards. Then there's like a whole detective side to this whole thing. It's really well told. At times it is a bit cringy. It does break the 4th wall, which sometimes feels a bit odd. It does sometimes jump around a little bit, which does feel a bit sudden, but it's still interesting. No. This is not the actual person. This is a story about the person. This is not about the actual. She is a scammer, like the actual scammer. This is a story about her story, but she's not involved because she's bad. She's very bad. Basically, the TLDR about this is that this woman faked having brain cancer and started like a whole career around like natural remedies, which is obviously a scam. And she made like a whole massive business around it and made like a lot of money. You can read up the wiki. This happened apparently. So I don't think she got arrested. She just got massive fines. So that's that. Yeah, like I said, I don't know how much of this is actually based in the real world and how much of it is actually like just fictionalized. But whenever I see that this is based on a real story and I actually see that real people are involved, I was immediately like, okay, please don't make the main character like the Belle Gibson character, or Belle Gibson, yeah. I was kind of thinking like, they can't make her out to be likable. You know, like you can't create this weird message of we're going to make this this dramatized, fictionalized, pseudo-documentary biography type of deal and make out the actual criminal who exploited people be likable. And I was very pleasantly surprised because there are moments where we sort of understand certain parts of her, but it is always outweighed by the suffering she causes for others. So there is kind of like a degree of, I can see how this happened, how you got here, but you're like not for a single second as I was like, damn, I kind of feel bad for you. I never really did. I always wanted to see her go down. And there really isn't like a detective angle. You already know that the story is basically over as soon as you start watching it. There is like no whole, did she do it, did she not? It's a story that is more so about the circumstances and around the people who suffered because of her. So that's really cool. So big thumbs up there. Because I know for a lot of these things, it's like people making these shows sometimes takes advantage of a very bad situation. And then like, especially with true crime stories, when like the family is involved and then they start getting bombarded by people on the internet who want to know more. And it's like, bro, it's a tragedy. Please don't reach out to the actual people affected by this. So this show isn't really that, like, at all. It's very obvious with making sure that people don't get lost in the sauce. At least I think it is. Sometimes I overestimate people's media literacy and they sometimes get lost in the sauce. So, yeah. It is a bit heavy. So, if you don't like this kind of stuff, then you might not want to watch it. There's a lot of very bad themes about sicknesses, illnesses, people being miserable in general. So if you don't want to watch anything like that, this is not like a goofy crime story you put on in the background. It does get a little bit heavy at times and it deals with some pretty bad themes. It's interesting though. I wish we got more stuff like this. Because this is like crime intertwined with actual, like actual deeper topics you can dwell on and think about. This is not something I'm going to overanalyze, though. It's just an interesting story, and that's it. Oh, speaking of this being a real-world story, again, I don't know how much of it is actually based in the real world, but if you go and watch it, don't expect it to be super clean, for everything to be, like, end very nicely. Is the ending satisfying? That's what I mean. Keep in mind that this is based in the real world. Not gonna say what the ending is for the sake of spoilers and stuff if you want to watch it. But just know that the real world is not as satisfying as fictional stories. It's not as satisfying as people might want things to turn out. It might not have the justice you want. It might not end happily ever after. Just be aware, you know? Also, important to note, she is getting nothing from this. Like, the actual person who did the bad stuff. She's getting not a dime. They always say this at the start of the episodes. She didn't get the disease. She faked? No. No. It was completely fake. It was completely fake. She faked having, like, brain cancer, and it was completely made up. She used it for sympathy, and then farmed out a bunch of money. Which is obviously very, very bad. It does explore a little bit of, like, what drives people to do something like that. Because if you've been on the internet for a while, you probably know that there are a lot of people who want to make themselves out to be victims in a lot of situations. Not just, like, with illnesses, but with everything. People just do it for sympathy, and that eventually can become something more, right? And this is, like, an extreme example of that. I wanted to look into this, but I think I need to watch, like, an actual documentary. Because there's a lot of this. There's like drama, intrigue, a bunch of stuff. And also, like, a big part of the series dwells on these, like, natural remedies of kinds. And I was like, please make sure that eventually you create the sort of point of reference that this is not a legit thing. It's just like, make sure this is not an actual thing people start looking at. And they do. They make it pretty clear that, you know, it's not really a thing you should be thinking about. Natural remedies. Natural, solutions to problems. Good little series. Recommend. 6 episodes. They're like 60 minutes each. They're very dense. They're very quick. Very snappy. They go through sometimes even too many years. Like I said, the pacing sometimes feels a bit like all over the place. It jumps around in time. Back and forth. But it's interesting. Really interesting. An actual compelling story. Koroto would recommend. A lot better than I thought it would be. I think it went on for... This says 2013 to 2015, but I don't know. It was multiple years. It's kind of just like a story of people trying to exploit people's vulnerabilities, basically. It's just preying on vulnerable people. This is the name. Apple Cider Vinegar. Might seem a bit random, but the name will become very obvious later.